Welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how to draft this bustier pattern, off shoulder bustier pattern. I'm going to be using bra cuffs inside. In case you missed my other video where I made the pattern, so you can watch this and learn as well. So this is an off shoulder pattern. I'm going to be using this pattern paper and it's 5 inches off. 5 inches off. So I'll place my tape at the 5 inches mark and then mark the shoulder to bust line and then shoulder to the under bust and shoulder to waistline. I'll repeat same at the edge of the paper, shoulder to bust, shoulder to the under bust and shoulder to the waistline. I'll also repeat again far away inside the paper so that I'll be able to have a straight line. Shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust and shoulder to waistline. And then I'll use my round roller and connect the 3 points together into a straight line. So this is my under bust, the other one was my waistline, and then this is the bust line. The pencil is faint, so I'm going to be changing to a marker. So I'll just use the marker to highlight the lines again. This is the bust line, the under bust line, and the waistline. So I just quickly label that. So that was a mistake. That is supposed to be the bust line, then the under bust, and then the waistline. So remember, it is 5 inches off. So this is the center front and it's going to be on fold. So I'm drafting the front pattern first. So this is the center front and it's going to be on fold. So I'm just using a single paper just to save paper. So remember, it is 5 inches off. So next we are going to mark the neckline. I'm using 5.5 inches as the neckline. 5.5 inches. So when drafting your off shoulder neckline, your normal shoulder line, then you can subtract 2.5 inches or 3 inches from half of your shoulder measurements. So I'm just marking the chest line now. I use 1/4 of the bust circumference so that I'll be able to get the armhole curve. So this is the chest line, not upper chest line. This is the chest line. So on that chest line, I'll mark 1/4 of the bust circumference and then connect it to the neckline. That will create the armhole, the off shoulder armhole. So the next thing now is to impute half of the bust span measurement. Half of the bust span measurement. I'll just impute it on all the lines so that I can have a straight line. We are not trying to create the bustier. So half of the bust span measurement, I'll mark it on all the lines across. And then I'll use my straight ruler to connect all that. Connect all the dots into a straight line. So we are going to be taking the dart on the under bust. I'm going to be taking 1 inch on both sides. The bust circumference we are working with is bust 38. It's not so big, so I'm taking 1 inch on both sides. On the waist circumference, I'm also taking 1 inch on both sides. So I'm correcting this now. Remember I told you this is the bust line. So this is the bust, this is the chest line. So I'm just confirming again, that is my bust line. So this shoulder to the chest line, shoulder to bust line, shoulder to underbust, and so on. So now we're going to connect the dart, the 1 inch dart. I'll connect the underbust to the waistline, and then at the bust line I'll come down by 1/2 inch. I'll mark it, and then I'll also go up by 1/2 inch above the bust line. This is to create freeness around the bust line. We don't want any friction there. So next is to use my French curve to connect that point to the underbust. The one below the bust line, I'll connect it to the underbust like this. So we are going to be cutting out this part. So I'll also be taking the dart at the top, at the neckline area, so that we can have our tightening there. I'll be using 1 inch on both sides as well. 1 inch on both sides, and then I'll connect it to the upper mark of the bust line, that 1/2 inch above the bust line. So this to create our cup, our breast cup. So this is the bustier. So you're going to be cutting out this part, and then these 2 inches that I'm going to be replacing it at the neckline and also at the chest line. So I just add 2 inches, and then at the chest line I'll also add 2 inches, and then I'll create a new armhole curve with my French curve. So this is now the new armhole. We are no longer using this one again. So once we are through with the armhole, the next thing now is to impute our measurements. But before then, we're going to be doing the neckline. So the neckline, I'll just connect it from the one of the leg of the dart using the French curve to have like a sweetheart kind of neckline. I'll connect it to the chest line, and then I'll impute the bust circumference, the underbust, and the waist circumference. So on the bust line, I'm going to be imputing 1/4 of the bust circumference plus 2 inches same allowance. Then connect that to the chest line. At the underbust, I'll also take quarter of the underbust. Then I'll replace the 2 inches of that intake, and then I'll add 2 inches same allowance. So I will repeat same for the waistline, 1/4 of the waist circumference, replace the 2 inches that, and then another 2 inches for seam. So I just use my ruler to connect that. Remember, we are drafting an off shoulder bustier pattern. So this is basically all for the front pattern. The next thing is to cut it out. So use your paper scissors and cut it out. So before I cut out the dart part of it, I'm going to place it on another pattern paper so that we can cut the back pattern. So the back pattern is going to have a zipper allowance. So this is my zipper allowance. You can use 1 inch or 1.5 inches. So this is the zipper allowance. So then you just trace around. So I'm just trying to mark the zipper allowance. This is 1 inch zipper allowance. After which we trace around the front pattern. So here is me marking the zipper allowance. Zipper allowance, you can use 1.5 or 1 inch. So I think I'm using 1.5 right now. Yes, I'm using 1.5. So this is our zipper allowance. Next thing, just to use the ruler to connect those dots together. After that, I cannot trace out the front pattern, just trace the outline. So we are going to be cutting two of this back pattern, and then for this back pattern we'll be going up by 2 inches and slant it to the side, because the front pattern is usually longer than the back pattern. That is when you measure shoulder to the waist. The difference between shoulder to the waist of the front and the back is usually 2. However, this is not constant, so you have to measure your clients. So I'm just using the marker to highlight the zipper line again so that it will be visible. And then I trace out the outline of the front, so we'll know what to cut out for the back. So the next thing is to cut it out. So we are now going to be drafting the back pattern. The back pattern is a bit different from the front, so just watch me as I draft. So we'll also be repeating the neckline. The neckline is the same 5.5 inch neck width. The neck width is the same, but the neck depths are different. We are still using 5 inches off, so I'm marking shoulder to the bust and then shoulder to the waistline. We do not need the under bust at the back pattern. So I'm marking shoulder to the bust line, and then the first one I marked was the chest line, where we are going to create the armhole. So these 3 dots, I'll just connect it to a straight line. That is the bust line. So I'm marking out the bust line, and then this is the chest line. So from the bust line to get your chest line, you can go up by 2 inches. So this is the chest line, bust line, and then the waistline. So on the neckline, we are going to mark 5.5 inches, and then on the chest line, we'll be marking quarter of the bust circumference. So I'll connect that to the neckline to create the armhole curve. So that's the armhole curve. So on the bust line, I'm going to be imputing, but before I impute the bust line, the bust quarter of the bust circumference, I'm going to be marking half of the bust span measurement so that we can create our dart line. So I'll mark half of the bust span measurement across at the neckline, at the chest, bust line, and waistline, so we can have a straight line. So we are creating the darts for the back pattern. The back pattern dart is different, just a straight dart, the non regular darts that we usually use. So I'm using 1/2 inch on both sides. 1/2 inch on both sides. And then I connect it like a triangle towards the chest line or towards the neckline, but I will not cut it through. So we are going to be cutting out this part. So this is the bust line. On that bust line, I'm going to be imputing quarter of the bust circumference, and then we have our 2 inches seam there. So on the waistline, we will impute quarter of the waist circumference. We'll replace the 1 inch dart intake, and then we'll add 2 inches for seam. So you just connect that. So there's nothing much to cut away from it. So you see why it's good to use the front pattern to trace out. Just a little from the waistline. And then to avoid zipper bulge, I'll go up by 2 inches. Like I explained earlier, shoulder to the waist of the front pattern is different from the back pattern by 2 inches. So I'll just slant it to the waist because the waist has to be the same with the front. So we are going to be cutting out this part. So this is now our waistline. So I'm going to be creating the neckline. The back neckline is different. For the front, we had a sweetheart, but for the back, we'll have a curvy neckline. So this is in front. This is the back neckline. So that is all for the back pattern. The next thing is to cut it out. This is Joydala Fashion Guide. Please subscribe to my channel, like my videos, share my videos, and please comment below in the comment section. Let's know what you think about this video. This is Joydala Fashion Guide. Don't forget we are drafting an off-shoulder bustier pattern. So remember to cut out that down part so that will not have any zip bulge. So for this back pattern, this dart you can decide to cut it out or to just leave it and fold it in when sewing. So that is optional according to your preference. But for this tie, I cut it out because of we are going to be attaching something there later on. So this is the center back. So always label your pattern. This is 5 inches off shoulder back pattern, and we are cutting 2, so that is 2x. And then this is center back. Sorry about that. It's supposed to be center back. Sorry, side back and center back. Side back, SB. I don't know why I will write this. Yes. Supposed to be SB. Then label the front pattern as well. 5 inches off shoulder pattern, front pattern. Remember, it's going to be on folds. I've written that before. So this is the side front, and then this is the center front. Also, you place your arrow to show the direction that you're going to be sewing. So the next thing now is to cut it out. And then cut out the neckline as well. So just indicate the arrow to show how we're going to join it. So this is very, very important so that you don't mess up your patterns. Do same for the back. So we are through with our drafting. Our off-shoulder bustier pattern is ready. This is the front pattern and the back pattern. So the next thing is to cut it out on your fabric and on your lining. That is all for this video. Thanks for watching.